Alright, hello everybody, Skyrim here, back again with another Diablo Immortal video. This is a discussion that's going currently on in the clan right now, and it does bear repeating, and it does bear some refreshing for most of us, that new and old, okay? This is going to be about your secondary attributes, which are the absolute most important stats in the game. Those are your most important stats by far in the game. Even above, honestly, I've said this before, and it used to be, they kind of go hand in hand with resonance, but your secondary stats are way more valuable even than resonance in some cases. So there are various things that you have to do and you have to keep up on as a day-to-day player in this to get the most out of this. So first we are, as you can see, in Iben Fahd Sanctum, which I refer to, I call it the Herodic Sanctum, call it whatever you want, the Sanctum, that kind of thing, yes. But anyway, this is the shrine here. You have to do this on the daily. Now there's a couple different ways now that you can do this on the daily, which is nice, and I prefer the other instead of doing it manually. But for the sake of, we are inside here in the Sanctum. As you can see here, you run this map through, which I did this time around. Okay, you run all the way to the end. There will be one free chest of gems waiting for you at the end of it. That's as far as I can scroll in. There will be one chest that you can open for free per day that doesn't require any keys. You'll need to get your keys as often as possible for this section alone. So that's why keys are very, very, very important to have. What kind of keys are those? Again, covering all bases for those that do not know, those that are new, aspirant keys. These are important to have. Now, if you want to go and open all the chests at the end for the gems that you need to upgrade this here, is you need certain colored gems. The garnet, the sapphires, and the beryl, of which you get from running the Sanctum on the daily at your free chest every day. And then, of course, you build up your keys to unlock a certain amount of chests per run every time while you're in here to build these up. Now, granted, we've gotten to the point where this is kind of a laughable amount. I'm still going to need to build up way, way, way more to rank these up further. But they all apply bonuses to your secondary attributes. The damage and life ones, I would say pass on. What you really want to focus on, of course, is the armor penetration, armor, the double stat ones, potency and resistance whenever you can anyway. Slip those in here and again, but mostly the main one stat ones will get you the most bang for your buck first, and then if you have any gems left over, start to focus on the double armor penetration armor or the potency resistance. But yeah, these are the ones you really want to focus on. I would forego the damage and life ones because you're not really going to get that much out of those. Your more important stats are armor, armor pen, potency, and resistance. Okay? Very, very, very critical, very, very crucial. This is part of the process here. This is a daily thing that pretty much cannot be missed. Now, there's another way of doing this, so you actually don't have to do it. You can do this very, very passively. Just make sure you collect it before the reset every day. And that is with Nisa, sending your familiars out on an expedition. So that's a very, very nice thing they added in. So you can do that passively while you're going out and doing some other things in the game, like running dungeons, that kind of thing. You can just come over here to Nisa, go to your familiar expeditions, and here it is. There's the Sanctum. You can click on this, assign your familiars to it, and send them out, and off you go. And then you can just let that run in the background while you're doing everything else. But again, remember to collect it when the time says it's going to be completed, as it will show.
Well, I have the box.
Yeah, right here. Familiars, my expedition, I just sent one freshly, so I have to wait for the whole hour and a half on mine anyway. So that's another way of doing that one for getting that same thing done instead of doing it manually yourself. The other way is to focus on your secondaries and why these are absolutely crucial and imperative. Secondaries are not to be forgotten about, and I've noticed this greatly more so on my alts that I have left in the dust, of which I barely did any form of secondary normal gem runs for, that kind of thing, because the normal gems is what will also boost your secondary stats more so than anything else. The Sanctum is one that you cannot forget about, but also anything involving getting normal gems. Discussed this quite a bit before, but we're doing this because everything ties together so nicely in this. On the topic of secondary stats, you want to get your normal gems as wherever you can get them. Daily party gems, which is 12. Try to get those on the daily. Try to get those on the daily for sure. And that's why they're called daily party gems. You have to be in a party of 4 in order to do whatever activities to get those to drop. And the counter is off. I already did the discussion in the previous video on that one. Look that up if you're curious about it. It's currently bugged as of this recording. Hopefully they'll get around to fixing it. I don't know. Remains to be seen, but take the information I gave in that video to heart and follow that one through. Make sure you're getting your maximum amount of normal gems per day in a party group. And also your weekly gems. Your weekly gems can be done in a series of ways depending on where you're at in the game. Your weekly gems can be found in the codex. The tracker is in there. Let's see, where are we at? It is Erebon and Abyssal Verge. If you have those unlocked, if you do not have those unlocked, hidden lairs in the open world, wherever you can find them, while you're doing various bounties and other activities running around in the open world, look for hidden lairs. That will be your friend for a very long time until you get to Westmarch and unlock the Abyssal Verge and Castle Erebon. Then you can do these things from Westmarch without even leaving town. The weekly normal gems. You have your bound and you have your unbound. The unbound, of course, you can sell in the market, and the bound you are just bound to you, obviously. So you get 63 of these in a week's time, maximum on each one. Okay, 63, 126 per week. This is non-negotiable. You have to have these stats. Why? Because I found out more so than ever, of course, and we're talking to some newer players and some of the people in the clan. This is why I'm discussing this now, and it's a good topic anyway. Because it will affect, if you hover over each one of these secondary abilities, there's a good reason for this. And this applies to whatever difficulty you have the game currently set to. This is how you check this. Have it set to whatever difficulty you're on, and then you go into your little attribute bar here. More attributes, secondary attributes, armor, armor pen, potency, resistance. Click on these values. And then read this carefully, because this definitely makes a huge difference. You want to be on the up as much as possible on this one. Like in this case, armor is 655 higher in my particular case. Currently on this build, increasing your damage reduction from blocking by 16% from base reduction. Okay, armor pen here. Critical increases, ignore some enemy armor, increases critical hit damage. These ones are usually huge. This is the biggest stat for all classes across the board. Armor penetration is one of the most important ones out of all of them. Other classes will have some variants here and there depending on which ones they focus on after that, but armor penetration is definitely the one for all classes to focus on the most. Your armor penetration is 50, in this case for me, higher than expected, blah, 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 blah. In your current activity and difficulty, so this is why this applies, like I said, to the difficulty that you are selected, increasing your critical hit damage by 54% from a baseline of double damage. Okay, that's how that applies. Potency, same deal. Now see, this is where it does list playing against players here. You gain up to a 50% increased control duration with this, depending on what percentages you're pulling off here. Now it does cap. This value would be less, but since I am higher in the current difficulty that I am running with my current stats, this number would have been lower, but I've reached the cap on it for the current difficulty that I am at because of the value that I am higher, which is good, because this would be, say, 20, 50, or 20, 30, 40%, whatever, until you get to the cap for the difficulty that you're in, with my value being over the value. So that's why it's at 50%, and that's the maximum cap against players. This one here, increasing duration by 29%. I'm not entirely sure. That one may or may not be at the cap. It feels like it's not there yet, so I might actually still be lower than what I could be, but it might not be. That might actually be it. This is against monsters. And then resistance. Resistance is also another thing. If you wonder why sometimes you'll be running around in open world or in dungeons, you get hit by a mob in particular, like the ones that throw the little fireballs at you, and you start to burn. You're like, man, why am I taking such massive amount of damage? Or the ones that put poison on you. This is why. Your resistance is a key factor here. You probably would check it, and you see your resistance is probably lower in some cases. However, the potency even from monsters is extremely high, even if you are at a higher value. So potency is a very tricky thing in the game. I do feel like that one's kind of all over the place. They didn't exactly have that one as balanced as most things, so that's why some people choose to abuse it, and honestly, rightfully so. Against players, in this case, my durations are reduced by 35% because of my current resistance. Now, when it comes to PvP, these are like all this is baseline. All these are baseline values you have to take at face value for what they are. When you go into PvP, especially as a free-to-play against whales, you will see their values are going to be like 10,000 resistance, 11,000 resistance, 12,000 resistance, or what have you, depending on which one they want to dump their most points into. And sometimes they'll have that N2 stats because, well, they're whales. They whaled out. That's just how it is. So then you have to compare your values versus their values, and you get the idea and how that works, okay? All right, so that's why secondaries are so important, but honestly, this is for newer players and old players, obviously, but mostly for, since this is a free-to-play aspect of this, you're mostly going to be doing PvE content, but I did give you an idea as to why these values apply where they do in both PvE and PvP, but you're going to be more interested, of course, probably more so in PvE if you're a free-to-play, or anybody that just doesn't want to do PvP. This still applies. This still applies to every aspect in the game. So these are not to be slept on. These are to be focused as much as possible. Like I said, you do the Sanctum on the daily, you get your party gems on the daily, and you also get your weekly gems, normal gems, and then rank them up accordingly, okay? All these are critical and crucial things. This is the most important aspect of the game. Honestly, this is the utmost important aspect of the game, is your secondary stats and how to go about ranking them up and getting them and keeping them. Because now, if I don't have the option because I didn't unlock Inferno 6 yet, but if I have Inferno 6, I can show you. But just for the sake of it, I can go backwards. We will go backwards. So, okay, let's look at, say, armor. 655 in Inferno 5, right? Above. Higher. So now what I'm going to do is show this just so you get the full understanding of this. Let's click it back to Inferno 4. So now we went down one difficulty. Let's go look at them again. Click on it here. Armor is 652 higher than expected for your level. That is interesting. That didn't really change all that much. That was 655 and Inferno 5. That's very interesting. Okay, increasing your damage reduction from blocking by 16%. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Let me see this again. Why going up would that be different, and then going down it actually was worse? Yeah! Your armor is 655 higher. It was 652 in Inferno. That's interesting. The 16% I think is the same though. Okay. Let's look at this. Oh, all right. On that note, let's look at this. Armor pen 1507, 54%. All right. I was not expecting that. That's very odd. That is very odd. 1504 and 54%. Okay, 54%. But it was 1507, I think, in Inferno 5 higher. That's weird. That should change. This should be different. 21% here. 35%. 31% increased duration on monsters for potency. It was 29 in Inferno 5. So that one makes more sense. But the armor and armor pen ones do not. That's really interesting. I didn't expect that to happen. But anyway, you kind of get the idea. All right, let me go back to Inferno 5. Just stay here. All right. Anyway, but there you go. That's the key things you need to look out for. Those are the things you need to follow, and those are your benchmarks for your progression in the game. You have to keep up on these things. Like I said, on my alts, of which I have left in the dust and I pull out on occasion just to do some things with and run it around, my damage was way less, mostly because, well, a combination of the resonance is lower on my alts, And my secondaries, I didn't do any form of daily focus on the normal gems upgrading throughout them. So they're way, way behind as far as that goes, and they're way, way under. So, and it shows. This is crucial. Again, critical hit damage and all that is crucial. And yeah, these are your most important stats in the game. I cannot emphasize that enough. Hopefully I did, of course, in the duration of this video. Wrapping things up now. Let me know what you think in the comments down below of everything discussed. Hopefully that will help you out for everybody going forward, not, you know, new and old alike. Okay. Again, this is a discussion that was brought up and in the clan recently, and I figured this is a good topic to rehash and rediscuss and reiterate. So anyway, until next time, everybody, stay safe out there. And the real world on fire, as always, take care of yourselves as best you can, one day at a time. It's all we can do. It's the best we can do. Until next time, see you.